Back in 2011, September 2011, just after Dublin had beaten Kerry in the All-Ireland football final, the victorious Dublin captain, Brian Cullen, he let a roar and he just told the assembled crowds and everybody watching on television,
"See you on the coppers! Yeah!"
Now, everybody in the country knew that he was referring to Copperface Jack's, the nightclub in Harcourt Street, which has become a bit of an institution. Now, well, everybody knows where Copperface Jack's is and what it is. Not too many people would know who Copperface Jack was. Now, Copperface Jack began life in 1739. He was born in Clonmel as plain old John Scott. He first became a barrister and he rose rapidly through the ranks. He knew the right palms to grease. He was a fairly corrupt individual. He was involved in one or two shady dealings. He eventually became the Lord Chief Justice of Ireland, and there are two streets in the immediate vicinity of Harcourt Street named after him. Clonmel Street, which leads from Harcourt Street to the Ivy Gardens, which was originally laid out by Copperface Jack. He was known as Copperface Jack because he liked to drink, often overindulged in drinking and eating, and he regularly had to hire two able-bodied lackeys to carry him home to his bed every night. He was a man of many contradictions. He was corrupt, he was colourful, he was known to be a great raconteur, and he was popular at dinner parties around Dublin, but he didn't have any friends. The closest thing Copperface Jack had to a friend was Francis Higgins, also known as the Sham Squire, who lived close by in St. Stephen's Green. Now, Francis Higgins was the proprietor of the Freeman's Journal, and Copperface Jack became involved in a famous case in 1788 with a well-known proprietor of a Dublin newspaper, the Dublin Evening Post, when Francis Higgins accused McGee of libelling him and a few other people, and the judge handling the case was Sham Squire's friend, Copperface Jack, which is today it wouldn't happen. It's totally unethical. Jack was seen swanning around the town drinking with the Sham Squire. Didn't really care. The cards were stacked against McGee from the start, and what happened was there wasn't enough evidence to convict him, but Copperface Jack held him to a really excessive fiat, a legal term for excessive bail. Even though McGee was a wealthy man, he owned several newspapers. He couldn't raise the cash, so he ended up doing a stint of about 18 months in Newgate prison over on the other side of the Liffey. And eventually he came into what was a fortune for those days, £14,000, and he was able to pay off the bail. And he said that he was going to give £10,000 to his family, and he was going to spend the remaining 4,000 on getting even with Copperface Jack. And get even he did. So to that end, Copperface Jack, he had a number of properties around the town. Like, he had a magnificent townhouse here in Harcourt Street, but he had a bigger mansion out at Sea Point. It's called Templeville in Sea Point near Blackrock. So McGee, there was an adjacent, there was a piece of waste ground right beside it, so McGee bought that, and in his newspaper he announced in 1789, every weekend he would hold a fair, a riotous assembly. He would invite the mob of Dublin to come out, and he would ply them with drink, and they would carouse, and this really upset Lower Clonmel. And then on the 12th of August 1789, McGee decided to have a grand carnival on the grounds at Fiat Hill, and this was to be the culmination of his revenge against Copperface Jack. The day kicked off with boat racing in Dunleary, free drink for the assembly. He put up posters all over the city inviting everybody and anybody to come. So a crowd of about 8,000. Now, some say it was a bigger, it could have been 12,000, but figures range between 8 to 12,000. And they gathered at Dunleary. Next, they marched in a body to Blackrock, where it's possibly the biggest football match in the history of Dublin, if not Ireland, took place, where 8 to 12,000 people assembled and kicked a pig's bladder along the road to Lord Clonmel's house, Templeville. Now, Lord Clonmel was in the house with his brother at the time, and he was seeing peeping out from behind the curtains. You can only imagine what he felt as this mob, this horde of drunken people, just descended on his property. Now, next door at Fiat Hill, all the Dublin publicans had been invited, and they set up beer tents. McGee had subsidised the price of the drink for the day, and there was all sorts of amusements. Grinning through horse collars, which was an amusement. You put a horse collar on and grin through it, and whoever pulled the ugliest face won, sort of thing. He had dancing dogs dressed up in judges' robes. So when John McGee decided the time was right, he unveiled the premier event of the day, which was a grand pig hunt. You know, a pig was a very valuable commodity in Dublin. So whoever could catch one of these pigs, you could just take it home with you. So he released about a dozen pigs. Now the catch was they were all shaved and greased, and so they're really hard to catch. And he had one big pig in a cage who presided over the thing, and he christened the pig. McGee had christened the pig Shamado after Copperface Jack's friend, the Sham Squire. So, at a word from McGee, the pigs were released. They were released in through the hedges into Copperface Jack's garden, followed by this horde of drunken 8 to 12,000 people, and they absolutely wrecked Copperface Jack's garden, which was his pride and joy. He'd spent a fortune buying plants from Europe, all over Europe, and he spent a good few years getting it just as he wanted it. But the place was absolutely destroyed, and with that, it was said afterwards that this event, the strain of these weekly events, he never really recovered from it mentally, and he died on the 23rd of May 1798, and he died, as he himself described in his diary, a helpless, ignorant, unpopular, accursed individual, forsaken by government, persecuted by Parliament, hated by the bar, and deserted by his oldest friends. A B D D B D da B D D D do B D da B do 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 do.